In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro reaffirmed his government's commitment to sovereignty and regional integration during the closing ceremony of the Greater Caribbean Parliamentaries Meeting for Peace. United States President Donald Trump denied allegations of an imminent attack on Venezuela after being published by some U.S. media outlets. In Palestine, the Israeli regime once again violated the ceasefire agreement in Gaza, killing Palestinian civilians in a bombing raid. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Sofía Fernandez from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro reaffirmed his government's commitment to sovereignty and regional integration during the closing ceremony of the Greater Caribbean Parliamentaries Meeting for Peace. During the event, the head of state emphasized that the United States wants to impose a permanent agenda of war and military threats and psychological warfare on the country. For this reason, he called on the Venezuelan people to have nerves of steel. Furthermore, the president affirmed that the Venezuelan people will continue to live in peace, with a victorious spirit and in the construction of their own democratic model, based on full liberties. On the other hand, the president invited the Caribbean parliamentaries to accompany the Venezuelan people to the more than 5,000 popular assemblies that will be held on November 1st and 2nd to prepare the projects that will be chosen during the 4th National Popular Consultation in Venezuela that will take place on November 23rd.
They always say that imperial supremacists are the good guys, that they come to save us and bring democracy. Guatemala knows well how they brought democracy in 1954. Brazil knows well in 1964.
Bien lo sabe el Brasil, del gran João Goulart, 1964, la democracia que llevaron durante 20 años al Brasil.
The democracy they brought to Brazil for 20 years. Chile knows it well from Salvador Allende in 1973. The Dominican Republic knows it well from 1966. And the great Juan Bosch, Latin America knows it well.
Bien lo sabe Granada y Maurice Bichot, nuestro gran Maurice Bichot. Bastante democracia que llevaron.
Grenada doesn't know it well. They brought quite a lot of democracy. Haiti knows this well. Martyr. Our martyr Haiti, dismembered by more than 10 U.S. military interventions over the course of 100 years.
The Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro emphasized that the distorted narrative of the United States about Venezuela is full of lies and false claims intended to deceive the sovereign peoples of the Caribbean.
Entonces esa película.
Then there's that movie. Today, the world doesn't accept those movies from the worst of Hollywood. After all, Hollywood also has great actors and actresses, great producers, directors, and great movies. It's not the time to talk about cinema, but we could have a long conversation about Hollywood's contribution to universal culture, acting, and true cinema.
Nos quieren imponer un relato, una narrativa. Hoy han elegido una narrativa absolutamente extravagante.
But they always want to impose a narrative. Today, they've chosen an absolutely extravagant narrative. I always try to discuss with my colleagues which concepts and words best describe each moment we have experienced. I can say that the narrative chosen by the U.S. government against Venezuela,
el poder estadounidense contra la Venezuela digna, pacífica y bolivariana es una narrativa extravagante.
a dignified, peaceful and Bolivarian country, is extravagant, false and defamatory of the dignity of a decent, hard-working people who have achieved great things for their country, despite sanctions, and all the pressure that we have all come to know over the years.
que todos conocemos a lo largo de estos.
For her part, the Vice President of the National Assembly of Cuba, Ana María Mari Machado, urged the U.S. Congress to demand that President Donald Trump cease the threat in the Caribbean, appealing to the peaceful nature of the region.
We want to make a special appeal from this forum and from national parliaments to the U.S. Congress and Senate, and in fact, with the presence of our media we are already doing so. A call to the U.S. congresspersons and senators to demand an end to the threats, the aggression, and the deliberate provocations of their government against our peoples. We do not want aggression or threats from the United States government. We do not deserve it. Our peoples want peace.
In other news, Venezuelan government requested the Supreme Court of Justice Friday to revoke the citizenship of far right-wing leader John Goycochea. In a statement, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Justice and Peace said that they request response to Goycochea's call for a foreign military invasion against Venezuela and the occupation of its territory. The Foreign Ministry and the Administrative Service for Identification, Migration and Foreigners will proceed to eliminate all documentation that identifies the far-right activists as Venezuelan. Goycochea is accused of persecuting and exterminating officials of the various security forces of the National Armed Forces, carrying out mass murders of Venezuelans. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump denied allegations of an imminent attack on Venezuela, which had been published by some U.S. media outlets. After some U.S. outlets reported on alleged military preparations against the Latin American state, Trump stated that he was not considering attacks on Venezuela. The statements to the press were made on board of the Air Force One, following the question which sought to confirm the rumors. In addition, the White House spokesperson Ann Kelly stated to the press that the unnamed sources didn't know what they were talking about, discrediting the outlets which had published the alleged presidential decision. For its part, Venezuela insists that the constant threats are part of the psychological war waged on the country as a form of pressure.
You are considering strikes within Venezuela. Is that true?
No.
That you made a decision on that?
No, it's not true.
Regarding these publications, the same Secretary of State of the United States, Marco Rubio, referred to them saying, "Your sources who claim to have knowledge of the situation deceive you to write a false story." For his part, Nicaraguan Foreign Minister Denis Moncada emphasized the peoples of Latin America and the Caribbean as threatened by the siege of U.S. imperialism.
Definitely, they are going to use psychological terrorism. They have already used it, and continue to use it. They use lies. They use falsehoods. They use deceit. The people are clear that their future lies in their progress, their advancement, peace with dignity for the Venezuelan people, and the peoples of Latin America, and the Caribbean, who are threatened and attacked by U.S. imperialism.
In the Unare Lagoon, between the Caribbean Sea and the mangroves of Anzoátegui State, life moves to the rhythm of waves and the nest. Here, hundreds of families make a living from artisanal fishing in an environment that is both a source of work and a refuge for migratory birds. Our correspondent Albert Fragua continues to travel around this beautiful country and brings us the details in a new chapter of Venezuela on the move.
Venezuela is establishing itself as one of the fastest growing fishing countries in Latin America. According to data from the Ministry of Fisheries, aquaculture grew by 55% in 2024, driven mainly by shrimp, the main export product. In the lagoon, This wealth is evident in every net and in every fishing expedition.
The most common fish here are shrimp, labranche and mullet. Normally you can get sea bass, mohara, and bonefish, which is a fish with a lot of bones, but the adults here in the communities remove the meat.
In recent years, young fishermen in Unare have changed their way of life. They no longer depend on middlemen. They are organized and market their own products, generating employment and local value.
Now, the fisherman is worth more than the merchant himself, because the fisherman goes out fishing and has his own things. He mentalized himself. In going to buy my own things, I have enough not to depend on anyone. Then right now, the entrepreneurship in the community was created.
On the banks of the Unare River, we meet Rosa, a strong-willed woman with more than 50 years of experience. Every morning, she continues to cast her net and says that she feels respected and at peace in El Atillo.
Well, I feel good because none of them disrespect me. I've been fishing here for years and almost all the people I used to fish with have died. Now there are only young people left and they treat me well too.
In the village, Francisco opens his home to us and shows us how the tradition of making fishing nets by hand is kept alive. This tradition, passed down from parents to children, enables the community to fish and repair their own nets.
Even as a little boy, I watched another man. I observed the man and how he did things. He made the fishing nets for my dad, and then I made them. Then I asked him, "How do you do this? How do you make this?" He said to me, "Look, you do this here, this way, this way."
Life in El Atillo is centered around a humble, hard-working community that organizes itself into community councils to look after its streets and natural resources.
How is it? Well, everyone here is humble, good people, honest and hardworking, and we are all united. We all live together because we all live as a fisherman family.
In this corner of the Caribbean, fish is not only work, it is also life and health. The inhabitants of the lagoon eat it every day, like Julio, who at 86 years of age continues to fish and cook his own food.
You can fry it. You can make soup. Well, however you want. Eat fish, because it doesn't hurt you. It does you good. It's good for you. And look at my age right now. How I still am, thank God, for eating so much fish.
Back at the mouth of the river, where hundreds of species of migratory birds stop to regain their strength, Jose Millan tells us that he is calm despite the United States' attack on fishermen from Colombia and Venezuela. Before saying goodbye, he shared his deepest desire with us.
We want peace in Venezuela, and our country's economy to continue progressing and growing.
We have a second short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break coming, we'll be right back with more from the south. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Brazil, favela residents protested to demand justice for the victims of the recent police operation that left more than 120 dead in Rio de Janeiro. Protesters denounced the death policy of Governor Claudio Castro, who belongs to the same party as Jair Bolsonaro. Among the allegations are human rights violations, summary executions, and injured people. Furthermore, family members of the victims gathered in front of the regional government house to demand justice. The police action, announced as an operation to prevent the expansion of a criminal faction, became the deadliest operation in Brazil's history, including the death of 4 police officers last Tuesday. Moving on to Honduras, where following a meeting held between the General Coordination in the Central District and the Liberty and Refundation Party, the order was given to call on all party members to mobilize to the capital starting on November 9th. Presidential candidate Carixi Moncada assured that the protest since November 9th will be permanent and that the national militancy will make a one-way trip to their hometowns. This comes after the leaking of audio recording that revealed a boycott, attack, and destruction of popular sovereignty by imposing the results of the November 30 elections. Moncada added that they received an expert opinion from judicial investigators and criminalistic expert Jason Villamil, who assured them that the leaked audio recordings are authentic. In other news in Argentina, Guillermo Francos resigned his Friday as chief of staff and will be replaced by Marco Adorni. The resignation comes due to persistent rumors about the changes in the national cabinet. This is how the chief of ministers, Guillermo Francos, announced his resignation from office in a post on his social media account X, addressed to President Javier Milei, who was having dinner in Olivos with former President Mauricio Macri. 4 minutes later, the president's office announced that the president had accepted his resignation and appointed presidential spokesperson Manuel Adorni to replace him, who will take office on Monday. In Mexico, farmers expressed concern about the harvest of traditional flour of the Day of the Dead in the face of climate change. For years on end, heavy rains, floods and drought related to climate change have devastated the flour crops in the area of Xochimilco, south of Mexico City. The traditional cempasúchil or marigold flower is used on the Day of the Dead in Mexico, covering altars and cemeteries, guiding the souls of the dead to their living family members during the first 2 days of November. The agricultural sector continues to work to preserve native seeds, which, together with specialized scientists, seek to generate genetic diversity in the hopes that these hardier grains can help farmers rebuild crops and protect Mexico's iconic bloom from the growing impacts of climate change. The Israeli regime once again violates the ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip, killing Palestinian civilians in a new bombing raid. According to Palestinian health authorities, a young man died when Israeli forces bombed his home east of Jan Yunis, while another died from injuries sustained in an Israeli airstrike. In addition, the authorities announced the death of a citizen and the injuries of his brother from bullets fired by the occupation forces east of Gaza City, bringing the death toll to 3. The Zionist army carried out demolition operations on citizens' homes east of Gaza City and Jan Yunis, where explosions were also heard. For its part, Israel released and handed over to the International Committee of the Red Cross about 30 Palestinian bodies with signs of torture. Medical sources in the Gaza Strip reported that the bodies were delivered by the Israeli occupation through the Red Cross. They also stated that this is the 5th batch of Palestinian bodies released since the ceasefire came into effect on October 11, 2025. Moreover, they asserted that most of the bodies showed signs of torture, such as burns and execution. Some even had their hands tied and their eyes blindfolded, while others were unrecognizable. Meanwhile, the United Nations Relief and Work Agencies for Palestinian refugees in the Near East continues to deliver humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. The organization emphasized that its facilities in Gaza, such as schools and shelters, continue to operate to help families displaced from their homes by the Israeli siege. It also emphasized that its teams of social workers continue to provide protection, psychosocial support and assistance to help affected residents rebuild their lives with dignity. More than 12,000 UNRWA employees in the Palestinian enclave work daily in education, medical care and the delivery of humanitarian aid to the displaced. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For telesur English, I'm Sophie Fernandez. Thank you for watching.